at the long list of the other things that I've done. I've had a non-linear career, so to speak, for a typical, I think, young South African. But what I'm basically looking at now is I'm part of a 100% women-owned African Advisory Board Services and Management Organization. And we basically have a top tier of people that are very passionate about South Africa's SMEs. And we're looking at how do we contribute to growing somebody from startup to taking them to the JSE. And along the way, if you're going to end up at the JSE, you're going to be accountable to a board. So if you start your company and you set up an advisory board, you basically work with a team that can get you to meet your goals. And so we basically help entrepreneurs establish advisory board that can help them with perspective and strategic input, and basically make sure that they sustain the growth that they set themselves onto. So my conversation today is about digital opportunities and what's basically what's called a low-touch economy or isolation economy. And basically, this comes as a result of a lot of companies operating in an environment where they have to have policies about distancing or not even operating at all as a result of reducing distance between people or isolating. So the idea is that then how do we thrive in the low touch economy? And I think probably a lot of the people in the group, you were probably a solopreneur or you're working with companies that are operating, they've been forced to shut down and you don't have a business anymore. And basically my conversation is that how do you then thrive in this economy? How do you go from the way things used to be as analog to digital? And I think the most important thing that we've done in the last 3 months, especially as an advisory board, working with companies or SMEs, taking them digital. For instance, one of our clients sells sand and bricks, like literally bricks and mortar. That's his business, and those are the only products that he works with. And he's never been on digital. He's never sold on digital. So we had to think about how do we basically take advantage of the situation and go completely digital for him. So this basically required paying attention to tech advances, to different platforms, and make sure that you avoid outdated education on what's technology. I've been working with Zoom for 3 years, and I've been asking people, the whole of last year I was actually working on asking people, let's get on Zoom, and they just would not. Let's get on desk WhatsApp, and people would not. And they still prefer to basically keep these things separate. And you basically, now you're required to integrate everything and to constantly look at what are people working on next. So when the outbreak happened, everybody went on Zoom, but we wasted about 30 minutes in each meeting. And that's 30 minutes of bankable time trying to help people to set up Zoom. And we're still working with it, trying to get somebody to say, edit your video, close your screen, mute yourself, you know. And if you're in business, you can't afford to have this cost when you're doing business. So you have to make sure that you're an early adapter and you know which tech advances are happening, you know which platform people are using. And so after Zoom came in, everybody was moving to Microsoft Office, but I can see now that they're back to Zoom because Zoom is also adapting really quickly and fixing its platform and security. So make sure that you adapt, and on a daily basis, find out what's out there, what is working, what is being tested. Test it, be the first one to adapt and to test those technologies, because that will put you ahead of the curve, because everybody's in technology and you never know what's going to boom. You know, I would say actually I was on Facebook in 2007 before it even got out of campus, because I'm always like looking for new things that are happening and see how they work. And when I got on Facebook, it just did not work. It was like a little text there, a little broken picture there. And when it opened up, it just boomed. I had 1,000 friends in like 2 seconds. And so it was my duty now to sort of, how do I convert this 1,000 friends to a valuable network? But as a result of being in it like eons ago, I've got a network of international friends, because when I joined, I was living in London. I was in an international university, and I've been able to keep up with that network of friends and turn them into a valuable network now. So that's very key. Be curious about what's new. Constantly check out what's new in the market that is working, especially in a workspace or in your industry. Then the second thing I'll say, you need to validate your product. You need to validate what you're saying, what you're selling, and what you're doing. I'll talk about that later on. How do you validate your product? And with technology, it used to take 3 months or a year or even 3 years for companies to validate the product. But digital economy has made it easy that in 24 hours or in less than a week, you can validate your product. Prepare to invest time. I know that as solopreneurs or CEOpreneurs, sometimes you basically don't have the time to work on the business because you're constantly working in the business, but you need to invest time. I even suggest that take 15 minutes a day and isolate it to say, I'm going to learn what's going on in the market right now. I'm going to learn on things outside my business on that could actually help my company function. Go into your groups and ask people which technologies are they testing, which technologies are they working on, and explore a little bit. Go into something for 15 minutes, figure out how to sign on, how to use it, how to explore, and as it goes, you might learn easier and easier ways of doing something so that you're not stuck in the past. So invest time. I would also say invest money, but luckily a lot of apps and a lot of tech products, they always allow you to try something for free for a month, for 14 days. So you've got the opportunity. And I think the most important that I'll also talk about later is pivot your business. A lot of companies in the initial stages of lockdown, a lot of companies close down. The gym slows down. Everybody, hairdressers close down. Everybody, the knee-jerk reaction was, we're going to close down. And they realized, oh, we don't know how long we're going to be closed for. And people started getting innovative on how to pivot their industry or how to pivot their business. So if you're sitting in a situation where you're still thinking, I don't know how to get out of this business that I'm in, you need to think outside the box. You need to think innovative. And I think in the first 10 days, everybody was making masks and that market soon got saturated. And people are looking at what is the next thing outside my normal business. So, but we'll talk about that also later. Now, what's also most interesting, although we're talking about South Africa, you have to think as what COVID has done, it has created a borderless platform for talent. You can sell your talent outside South Africa now, in the whole continent, in the US. The dollar being stronger, that means that we're a cheaper market for people to basically source from us. I'm working with clients that are in Russia, and they actually said to me, can you please look for people for us in South Africa that will basically cost us $5, unlike $50 in America. Or what $50 translates to in America, it's about 1,000 in South Africa. So it's worth it to start looking outside and maybe start thinking about, how do I earn in dollars? How do I earn in foreign exchange? How do I go outside South Africa and look for new clients? Because if you're skilled as a South African, you are cheaper for the foreign market. So basically now we're looking at a point where we're transitioning from the shared economy where everybody was going into Uber, into Airbnb, into anything shared space, and into low-touch economy, where we need new strategies for this economy. You need to look at new logistics solutions, better cleaning or hygiene solutions, new communication tools beyond the ordinary. And it's basically for you guys as business to figure out, how do I move from the shared economy, or if you're not in it, good for you, and how do I thrive in this new low-touch economy? What are the new strategies that I need to think about? So, although the economy closed down, there's still industries that, as the president mentioned, or as policies, a lot of policies all over the world, only essential services will continue to operate. This included food industry, and food basically is from agriculture to when the food lands on your plate. And with agriculture, there's a lot of smart technologies because you also need to observe the social distancing. You can't have as many farmers on the ground as you used to. People are looking at ways that they can transport better, reach more markets. So you need to think, if you're in marketing, there's farmers that you need to actually look at as a new market, because they didn't need to find new ways to reach new markets or new economies. Now they're looking for opportunities. But these are some of the industries where there's still business, and business is actually thriving. I basically have friends that work in these industries and that got salary increases after lockdown, because they were able to negotiate, because they were required to work twice as hard, or to come up with new strategy and new opportunities to access markets. But I mean, food is a low-hanging fruit. Everybody has to eat, and everybody's going to eat. China is looking for organic food from South Africa. They're looking for exports. I think immediately after lockdown, Rwanda was able to sell off its coffee in 5 minutes through a Chinese mobile app. So food it's an easy industry that it covers all industries. It covers marketing, it covers finance, it covers legal. So every industry touches point with food. So you need to find your way into these ongoing industry. Obviously health, with the amount of pressure that was put in the industry, the health sector is ongoing. A lot of people started selling masks, a lot of people are selling sanitation. Every single day you get requests to either sell or buy masks. So there's a huge trading market for health products and health services. The education sector, that also increased, but not in a traditional sense of education. I mean, we're here now doing this HBX because people are looking at new ways to learn, because they want solutions, or they want education that's going to solve their problems immediately. So while universities closed and we're trying to figure out how to do things and projects, a lot of people during retrenchment, or when they lose their jobs, or when they close, they turn to education. And that's basically also an ongoing area. And I'll talk about it later on. How do you basically get to be in the education industry right now, or how do you leverage the education industry? So some of the industries, let's say financial services continued, banking continued. So banks are still collecting their money, they're still offering services. There's people management services, because a lot of companies had to work offline. They had to think, how do I manage people that I don't see? How do I manage my juniors? How do I coordinate work between people that they don't have data? You've got to run payrolls. So there's a lot of people management services that had to happen. People had to leave and find new ways to do this, or outsource completely running an offsite office. And there's office work, that's people are working from home. So there's offsite office, it didn't close down. Probably for a week or so, a lot of people didn't work, but immediately after they had to pick up and continue doing their office work. And there's also the networking industry. I think LinkedIn became more active now. You saw Zoom stocks increased, quadrupled, because of people are networking, people are still engaging, people are talking. I found that I actually got more busy during lockdown than before, because now you actually have back-to-back meetings. People are making appointments, people are having e-parties, people are having e-birthdays or e-weddings. So there's still, the networking industry is still happening. People are still engaging, although it's on screen, but you've got a lot more video networking, which also then increases a lot of opportunities in as far as digital economies are concerned, in video editors or people that are good with video work. I mean, I had a workshop the other day from somebody who was telling me how to put my computer, and it was a simple thing of, if I'm looking at a computer, you shouldn't look at me as was having meetings like this, and you've got people now on the internet having workshops about, if you're on Zoom, how do you do a Zoom conference? Because everybody wants, this is a selling proposition. How do you actually put up an amazing network? How do you have an interesting screen behind you? So there's lots of, like, people are making money off education in networking. Then there's obviously with the local sports, there's esports and there's gaming. A lot of kids are sitting at home playing a lot of games, so there are a lot of games being released or being created. So the idea is that then, how do you, as a business, get into digital marketing? How do you find people that are in this necessary industry? So how do you, in this ongoing industries, if you're not in it, how do you go about taking advantage and leveraging digital opportunities in this industries? So I'm basically going from a macro level to micro. And I would say you need to start, your premise of this is that find people that you want to help and create a niche market for it. A lot of it is, there's a lot of content creators that they have knowledge, but they don't know how to make it digital. And content creators, it cuts across all sectors. So if you're an advertising agency, you could teach somebody on how to set up an advertising agency, but you don't know how to create an education video. So if somebody's in education video, then, or in understanding how to put things on YouTube, on Instagram, or on Skillshare, those are people that you want to work with, people that have content, but they don't know how to actually translate it and how to put it online. There's also a lot of students, a lot of universities are closed. Not necessarily every student has money, but there are those that actually have a budget that want to learn, that need tutors. You know, some students don't learn through videos. They need somebody to give them one-on-one attention. If a lecturer has about 1,000 students, all they do is basically get on the video and give out content and they leave. So there's a lot of students that are looking for content, to be translated for them, that are looking for things to be summarized for them. I mean, in the past, you used to have people that were selling essays, but you don't have that anymore. But there's lots of students that are looking for content to be translated, to be digestible. So there's a market there where you can actually look at helping students do this. There's entertainers, artists, and public speakers that after lockdown, they're basically all sitting at home and they don't know how to get out there. They don't know how to create content. You've got a lot of, I mean, when you look at sort of people that play sports, they've got brands. Like you've got Nike that is looking for brands, or they represent brands, but they haven't figured out, how do I get online? I actually had a famous soccer player, who didn't know how to grow his Instagram. And in a few seconds, in a few days, I basically gave him the few rules of go from this point to that point, and he was able to increase his media following by 5%. You know, and sometimes helping people also means you go out there and you do something for this person. So if you're looking at this kind of people that you want to help, go out and offer help and help 3 people, so that way you're creating a portfolio of people that you can help, that you know that after they've seen your value, they can easily convert to paying clients. And in the age of digital economy, it's also very easy to convert people that you help into paying clients, because they get social proof of their client. They get their product validated or your service validated within a space of a week or within 24 hours. So it's very easy to say to a student, I'm going to help you with this. I'm going to give you a 30-minute session. And if you like what I do, we can continue tomorrow for 10 more or 15 more sessions. Or to say to an entertainer, as I said, you basically will say, I can help you optimize your social media networking or your engagement, or to basically add value to brands or to communicate with brands. I can help you write, as an artist, I can help you write a motivational letter or marketing brief to the people that you need to reach. Or you basically, the solutions that they've got the product. In digital, you need to basically find a way to say, how do I actually help you sell this product? Then another interesting service that I found is a drop service facilitators. So I think we probably have all heard about drop shipping, but after lockdown, there was a little bit of a drop in drop shipping, and people started looking at drop service. And the niche in drop service that somebody looks on a platform like Fiverr, or they look for digital service providers. They validate them, they check if they're good, if they deliver on time. And once they're good, they basically go to the market and sell your service. So if you're a social media manager and I've worked with you and I'm comfortable that you actually can do well, you don't go out and look for clients as a social media service provider. Go to somebody who does drop service facilitation, tell them that you're really good, deliver on time, and make sure that they get you the clients. I mean, at first they might take like 5% or 10% of your work, but it also helps validate yourself in the market. It also helps grow your business. It also brings the volume. So you don't spend time being anything and everything in your company. It's not going to work. So look for people that you can help. Look for people that can help you in your business. You can't do it alone. It's impossible. So while you're looking for these kind of people, so there's, as I say, coaches, there's people that have software solutions, but they're not creative. There's a lot of inventory managers now that work in small companies or small shops that they're looking for technology solutions to make sure that their inventory is counted off-site or on-site. There are people like weekend farmers. I basically consider I'm a kitchen farmer, for instance. I grow my food in my kitchen. I've got a vertical farm. My mom is a weekend farmer. If I didn't live in an apartment, I'll be a weekend farmer. But these are people that actually, in the time that there's no food, or that people cannot go out everywhere, these people need a platform to sell their products. You know, they might be selling, their inventory is not as big, but you could help them get online or use smart technologies to get online. And finally, you've got remote workers that need a lot of tech solutions, that run their own businesses, and they need strategies. You could actually help somebody with their business strategy. If you're at home and you're looking after your kids, you're looking after your family, these people need coaches. These people need technologies that will help them function better. And the best way to actually start with this is, if you want to get into the business, say, go find a living, breathing body to work with to help in the solution that you want to craft. Test it, you know, and test if it works. Test yourself as a client of the solution. Help yourself first, because sometimes you're selling something, but it's not working for you. So you go out there and you actually talk to people, help them, then learn what their needs are. You know, if you want to create content for an artist, contact 5 artists and find out at the time, right now, what is it that they need? What digital solutions do they think they need? Or what solutions generally do they need? Then you design a service for them. So that way you're responsive to your market rather than being prescriptive. You know, so you don't want to tell somebody use Zoom when they might be camera shy. You know, you might say, actually, I can be a voiceover for you. Instead, and you could put, like, I could put a PowerPoint here and do with a voiceover because I pretty much don't like talking or don't like live presentation. I feel like they're a bit awkward, but I like my content. So I could say, you know, you need to find out what do people need and what do they need service with. Then you go then help them again, but then this time you help them for a fee because they've seen your value, and you can come up with pricing strategies that actually work. For instance, we've worked on a Zoom conference recently, and we told people, when you leave, if you found value in this, pay whatever that you think the value was worth. Instead of saying $99 or $50 or $1, just say, just pay when you exit. Here's a link, pay me what you feel that you gain value for. So when you help people, the return is you can actually convert them into paying clients, and they will be willing to actually pay because they receive value. If they don't receive value, they don't pay you. You know, and that's pretty much how it works. So currently with, these are some of the companies that immediately after shutdown, as I said, there was a month or so where people didn't know what to do with their businesses. And these are some of the examples that people had to pivot, companies had to pivot, and they had to go online. So you're basically repurposing the resources that you currently have right now. And one of the easiest things that I found is easy to pivot, and that's actually worth more than oil right now, it's data. You know, a lot of us, through our clients, through our daily interactions, we've got a lot of data that we haven't repurposed or reused. So you need to look at the data that you have in your business. You need to look at the clients that you have. You need to look at the analysis that you've done. You know, you need to look back and say, what have I done so far, and where I am, and what are the non-tangible assets that I have, and how do I repurpose them? So as I said before, there's a niche market that you need to look at. This is data that you've collected about that niche market. There are companies that are looking to access that market. How do you help them access that market? So there's something that, as you're repurposing, you need to first look at your data. There's companies that have gone from live teaching to live webinars, which is online to offline. There's been opportunities to, from delivery to teaching what you do. So people that used to basically teach online, now they're teaching the process. You know, so as I said, if you're a graphic designer, take a video of yourself designing a logo and use that as a tool that you deliver to somebody. Say, this is the day, this is how I spend my day. I think the Kardashians have proved that people love what you call it, live. What's it? What? Andrew, you can help me with that word. People that watch the Kardashians and all sorts of
reality TV.
Reality TV. Yeah, I don't have a TV, so I don't watch. But people love reality TV. People thrive on it. So the way you deliver what you do, but in a teaching format, you know, you could talk to people like that. This is how I organize a webinar. If you want to organize a webinar, here's a day in my life where I organize a webinar. Subscribe and pay. So you don't have to sit and teach in this way. You know, your life is a teaching moment. So look at what you do in a day. Take a journal of what you do in your day and deliver it as a teaching tool. We looked at companies like Airbnb that went from, a lot of Airbnb shut down, the prices crashed, the stock price, but after a while they also realized we need to pivot. And they created self-isolation options around the world. But it basically took that, if you felt that you can take the risk and rent your property to somebody who had COVID and wanted to isolate from their family, then that's how Airbnb is sort of slowly coming back. I've also seen now that they've got online experiences where they go to Michelin star chefs and get them to teach online. So they're basically pivoting from being a property company to being an online education company. And the experiences sell more because they're selling what you would ordinarily not have access to. Because in the past, for instance, if I looked at a weekend in Cape Town, I would look at online experiences in Cape Town. But now I go to Airbnb because it's also a very creative company. They think outside the box. Now I look at, if I want to learn a skill, I'll go to Airbnb and see who can I learn a skill from anywhere in the world that I will ordinarily not afford, but they've made that affordable and accessible. So these are some of the examples of how companies have pivoted from their traditional business to something else. Nightclubs are hosting balcony parties that works in European markets or elsewhere. You've got companies that basically have gone and started comparing prices of local markets and aggregating them and sharing them. I think in the beginning, one of the things that we all noticed that Spar, Pick and Pay, and Checkers, the prices went up. And people were sharing that information on Twitter, but nobody was aggregating this information to sort of say, if you look at in the villages or in the township, we've got our own basket of consumables that we have. And nobody knows how to compare these prices. And if I bought these 10 items from Pick and Pay versus from Checkers versus from Spar versus from Woolies, well, Woolies is on its own a league of its own. But you know, you can have those kind of services. Say, how do I share that information with a group of people? And these are simple things that you could even run a WhatsApp group and start sharing this information on a basket of services that you know, you understand, you interact with on a daily basis in whichever community that you're in. So there's been companies that decided quickly, they went on and say, okay, it's in the health sector, how do I compare the price of masks? How do I compare the price of thermometers? So they basically aggregated, look at being an information aggregator for people that shop or local prices. There's now a new career of people calling themselves online education producers. From, as I said, if you don't know how to produce an education platform, but you've got the platform, but people are they're going to the best and the best brands. So they want to get their education from somebody that they can trust, somebody that produces high quality video. And it's getting competitive because now everybody's flocking into the education industry. So some of the experts or video editing experts have now created a whole industry of online schools producers. So you could also look into that, or you could use one to pivot your business to deliver an online companies. So these are basically some of the ways that a lot of companies have gone from bricks and mortar, analog to digital, which they've turned into e-commerce. In China, there's a new trend now that models or shopkeepers are basically creating videos and selling the clothes in the shop and fitting them and convincing customers to buy. And there's a whole new celebrity trend with VR of live shopping. So you could actually, a boutique could open for a day, get a model. If you know a model, this is a partnership that you could facilitate VR or video shopping between companies that are closed or stores that are closed to basically get them to access the market, to create more entertaining or entertainment shopping. So there's a need for that, and a lot of companies are realizing the value of VR, which I thought that it was going to take forever for VR to take off, but it's taking off much quicker because of obviously the low touch economy. And I think I had a video of quarantine greenhouses. So people restaurants are creating that, or places that need experiences. They're looking at how do you create an environment where people can come together, but they're still safe, or they're still quarantine friendly environments. There's also a lot of local vendors that are doing pick up and drop for gift boxes. That also means that you need to understand your local market. You need to understand what your local people are shopping for. And some services they still can't rely on logistics, especially in local economies. As you say, Andrew, things get lost in logistics, or it's expensive, or it adds an extra 100. But if you're in a township or you know somebody in a township that basically can go from one point to the other, just pick up and drop, you don't need to, you can pay them an extra 500 instead of taking it to a big company. Like I think PEP does the delivery for 100. There are a lot of companies that do deliveries for 100. But if it's within one location or one township or one zone, you could actually, there's opportunities for young entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or survivalist kind of companies to do this. And you can also even get like 10 people to cover one township doing pickup and drop-offs. That will usually not happen, or that will cost extra for somebody to go to town and pick up. So these are some of the ways that companies, there's actually a database. There's a website that has a database of international companies sharing how they've pivoted their companies from their traditional business to whatever that's new. So this is something that I'll also cover later in the presentation. I'll say, look at how companies have pivoted. Look at companies that look like yourself and see how they actually pivoted from the bricks and mortar to online. So speaking of, if now you're saying, okay, how do I do this? How do I take advantage of available solution? I would say have a very deliberate strategy. Something that I also learned in the last 3 months, that you got to put things down on paper. Don't brainstorm out there. Even though you're alone in your business, sit down and have a strategy of how am I going to go about this, and stick with it. And I trade Forex sometimes, and my favorite thing is that have your plan and plan your trade and trade your plan. Do not deviate. Do not get out as soon as after a week you think, oh, this is not working. You need to persevere. You need to be clear about your strategy. Take time planning what you need to do in the next 3 months, for instance, or the next 12 weeks, or in the next year. Where do you think in 6 months you want to be in terms of leveraging these digital opportunities? And I'll say the first thing you need to think about is you've got to be visible in the market. You've got to get online. You've got to be active. If you're not visible, your clients are not going to find you. You're not going to find clients. And that basically means you need to be on social media. TikTok is very big right now. I'm not on it, but it's blowing. It's getting big. You need to be on TikTok. You need to learn to make videos. Not everybody's making a comical video on TikTok. You can even outsource that. You know, somebody make a video on your behalf and pay somebody. You need to be on Instagram, especially for the younger generation. There's a lot of adverts that are going on Instagram, but be on Instagram. Use your hashtag. Use your ad. Figure out the best way. There's lots of free Instagram management lessons that you could get from. A lot of people are offering paid for services, but they're also offering free teaching at elementary level. Start with it and see how you grow, but learn how to, don't just get on it and post random things. Look at your Instagram and your social media as real estate for your business, and something that when people are looking for you, they have to be able to find you, or you have to be able to find people. Use your business hashtag to also find other people. And when you're on social media, getting online doesn't mean just posting. You know, there's actually somebody called, if you're just posting all the time, you're like a social media vampire, because you're just taking. Engage with other people, feed other people information. You know, be interactive so that you position yourself as a thought leader, because once you follow somebody and you engage with them, it's easier for them to follow you back. And it's easier for you to be visible in the market as an opinion maker, or as a thought leader, or as an expert. So once you get on social media, think about those kind of things. How do you engage? If you're in a LinkedIn group, how do you offer information? How do you share? Because that's also how you get clients. Because if you're in an advertising agency group on LinkedIn and you're constantly offering information, at some point somebody comes back to you and say, can you, basically they'll DM you and say, can you do this for me? You know, I've seen your advice online. Can you help me with that? So you build credibility by being online, not just on your page, but also on other people's pages. And also make sure that you've got a WhatsApp, a professional WhatsApp, a business WhatsApp that will basically figure out, learn. It's an easy lesson to learn how to actually create a chatbot on WhatsApp. If somebody comes to your WhatsApp page, are they getting response, or is it a dead end? You know, if you're not paying attention to that, is their presence. And I think chatbots basically are almost necessary for, even on Facebook. If you've got a messenger page, make sure that your customers get response. Use the chatbot also to get information about the clients, to sort of qualify the kind of clients you're going to deal with. There's many ways that you can actually build that. Then I would say radio, and I'm actually quite impressed that this is live on radio today, or it was live on radio today, because the first one was not live. And I said, there's an old technology. There's a time that in the 60s, radio was new technology. It has not disappeared. It's still a platform to use. And I mean, in China, my examples will mainly be China, because that became my area of expertise. In the 1960s, China had something called Radio U, which was a radio university. That it was a dedicated radio that only did teaching. So they offered in the morning elementary teaching, in the afternoon they offered high school, at night they offered university lectures. And it was actually quite disappointing when I noticed that a lot of kids in South Africa did not have access to data, and as a result, they could not learn. But nobody thought, you know what, I could actually condense a grade 7 textbook and teach it on radio. Contact the radio station and say, give me an hour of your time to teach for free. You know, and condense this information and teach, because in teaching you also learn. But leverage radio to teach, to share information with people that might not have access to data, because that also positions you nicely in the industry, and the dividends come. But I think that's all technologies that people have forgotten as we're going forward, and we're trying to all get digital and smart technologies on our phones, that there's many local radio stations. And I think somebody said that there's no more space for new radio stations. So you need to actually go back to local radio stations and see how to partner with them and use that old technology to position yourself in the market. If you're teaching, you're not advertising, but you've got your local businesses that will then come to you because they might have heard about you on the local radio or the work that you do. So leverage that, but get online, be visible, share your work so that you can actually attract customers. And also, I mentioned earlier on issues of big data. You are data, you represent a segment of the market. You know, do a little bit of self-introspection about who you are, what do you use, what do you eat, what do you consume, which market segment do you represent, what percentage of that market segment do you represent? And that's information that's valuable when you're going out in the market and you're servicing. Because initially, when you start a business, you usually start a business where you're solving your problem. So if you don't know yourself well, and if you don't understand yourself as data, how are you going to serve your customers and how are you going to serve your customer needs? So you need to understand those gaps. You need to see things in data type of, be ruthless about it and see yourself as a number and see yourself as a market segment and understand that about yourself or your business or your client or even your community. You know, the trends that are going on in your community, which I think when I was having this conversation about how to evolve, somebody said that, you know, the guys at the parking lot that guard cars, those people have wealth of information and a wealth of data in the supermarkets that they're in. They know how many cars come into the market. Go pay somebody $10 or $20 to collect that data for you so that you actually understand the trends in your community. You know, because those people get 5 rents, but they basically have reached a level of awareness and data information that nobody's leveraging. So look for opportunities where there's data that's not leveraged, that's not used, and collect it, either resell it or reuse it. So understand what big data means, how it can be useful to your companies. And the next strategy, be clear about where do you want to sell, which platforms are you going to use to sell your services, advertise yourself, either on, if you get online on your own platform, you're able to sell yourself, but there are also platforms that are dedicated to selling, where you can actually, you'll go from like a level 5 to a level 1 seller, and you make a lot more money. Fiverr is generally my favorite. I test Fiverr first. Some people have lost money at Fiverr, but I think it's because they don't know how to filter good from bad. But learn to use Fiverr. And it's also actually a good platform to do, to on-sell or to find other people that provide a service, or to even find business partners that you could work with. I've had 2 strategies when I use Fiverr. I will look for local suppliers because I know that if I want to meet them live, I'm able to meet them live. But I'm also going to use somebody from India that is great, that was only going to charge me $5 for something that I can on-sell in South Africa for $25 or to America for $25. So the skill alone of being able to understand Fiverr and filter and find good sellers, it's a good skill, because it takes time. It's an investment in time when you're understanding this platform. So use Fiverr, use Upwork, use GuidePoint, use those kind of platforms to sell your service, to understand how they work. So as I said, to find partners or to basically buy services from them and on-sell in your business as part of your package, or just to simply get better and become the expert in that area and become a level 1 seller. But the beauty of this platforms also, the ones that I've listed, they're international platforms. So you're getting paid in dollars. The week rent will work for you in that regard. So, but the other platforms also in South Africa, I think Brown Sense has not moved into digital. I hope that they actually soon move into full market day digital, where you basically have a live Zoom Brown Sense digital marketing day. Or there's still Facebook markets in every local. Facebook basically zones down to a local market where you can sell or advertise your services. So be very deliberate about which platforms you want to dedicate time to and you want to sell. So that way, over a month or 2 months or 3 months, you can say, you know, I was on Fiverr, this is where I was 3 months ago, and this is where I want to be in 5 months, and how do I compete with people in my network? And so if you're also consulting or you're selling smart solutions, LinkedIn is also a good platform. There's very smart ways to actually trick LinkedIn to increasing your profiling. It's so simple. It's actually ridiculous. If you add somebody in your network, LinkedIn talks about you. If you comment on somebody's content, it puts you in front of your clients, which is you got to be visible right now. You can't be a hermit, and you have to think, if I'm going to be on LinkedIn on a daily basis, I'm going on LinkedIn, I'm engaging, I'm using LinkedIn as a platform, and you have to figure out, how do I go from being ranking number 300 in my network to ranking in the top 10 in those expertise? Which are the keywords that people in my network use? What are other people doing? So I'd say have a very clear strategy, and then develop the tactics under that strategy to being on whichever platform. Then also think about, how do you simplify process for your clients? How do you get people to easily buy either from you or from other services? QR codes is a new concept, but I basically 5 years ago, I would not even begin to host an event or do an engagement without a QR code. My business card is a QR code and my name, that's it. I've got a whole identity that's just a QR code that I could post anywhere that people can actually get access to. And I think this is a technology that's underestimated in South Africa. So I would say in the next wave, as we develop in digital economy in South Africa, we're going to see a lot of QR codes being used for advertising, for sharing information, for shopping, for paying for our taxis. I mean, you've got Snapscan only now, but there's opportunity for that to increase in shops. I should be able to, so I use WeChat a lot, and I still use WeChat. I've never had to carry cash when I'm in China, because I bought ice cream for R1 with WeChat, and I use it all the time. I've been back in South Africa for 3 years. I have not had the energy to actually create a Snapscan account. And there's still peer-to-peer service that's missing in the country. And that's something that you've got to look for. And I've engaged with in financial services. If I send somebody an e-wallet, they basically cannot forward that e-wallet to somebody else. They need to take it out, put it in the bank, or put it for another e-wallet. So there's an opportunity that if I receive an e-wallet and I've got a QR code for it, and I need to pay a friend, I should be able to simply scan the QR code and pay them instantly. So there's a big opportunity that's waiting here. And I think we're considered to be in generation 3 of peer-to-peer financial management. So if you're in that service sector, you basically need to look for opportunities for us when you go to generation 4 of peer-to-peer financial services. And generation 5. China's already moving to generation 5, but we're still gonna go into generation 4. So there's a lot of opportunities, and it all has been transacted through QR codes and advertising. So you need to sort of see, how do you simplify the process for others? How do I simplify somebody going to the taxman and to SaaS? How do I make that journey shorter? And that's where the opportunities exist. How do I simplify the process of, as I said earlier, comparing prices between Spar and Checkers and Pick and Pay? Simplify those processes for people. Think about, at this point, if I'm sitting on my couch and I'm scared to go out, but I want to sit on my computer and do something, how do you simplify that process for me? How do you optimize my engagement with the various services out there? Then there's also, I think, internally, I would say, work efficiency of your own work. Which systems are you using, or which systems are other people or your team are using to work efficiently, to share projects, to edit documents? And something that I said earlier, that I didn't feel like I was a tech guru, but every day I get people in my group asking me, how do I use that? How do I use this? But because they think I'm always an early adopter. And I had a simple thing when somebody asked me, I'm also doing my PhD. So I coach in the PhD network, and I host weekly PhD coaching sessions to make life easy. And somebody asked me, how do I get my supervisor to edit my work? And for me, it was like, you use Google Docs. It's that simple. And they didn't know that information. So you might be working with teams that don't know how to use simple technologies to make life easy. And you might need to adopt. There's technologies coming up every day to manage projects. I've seen Monday.com always being advertised on my YouTube, but I don't trust advertised products. I prefer word of mouth. I prefer things that other people are using. So there's issues. There's software like Asana that is very good for goals and for managing projects between people and for creating accountability between teams. There's compliance that helps with working groups. So if you basically are on your own and you want to work with other people, you could go into a compliance group and work with people on a virtual working group. There's Zoom that we all use daily. So you want to make sure that everybody's efficient. Zoom is improving every day. You want to make sure that people are optimally using Zoom to leverage and get information. I think, for instance, today I was actually thinking, if I wanted to run a poll on this and find out where everybody is digitally without them saying anything, sorry, how do I do it? This is information that I need, or that Mizin could need. Get your team, or get yourself to understand, how do I use this work efficiency products? Then there are people that are also tech, but they're not tech savvy, or they just do not want to deal with the process of dealing with tech. So if, for instance, let me say I get to understand how to use Asana or any work efficiency tool, but there's somebody else who doesn't want to go through the process. If you've got an old person who says, I don't even want to know how to do this process, you could actually do a live tutorial on how to get them into work efficiency, or to get your team to become work efficiency with technology. So there's a value that once you become work efficient, you can also use that knowledge to become a knowledge creator or information creator and help other people with that information. Then the next point, my greatest and my favorite thing, is create a community. You cannot work alone. Everybody's in isolation. It's depressing, it's stressful. You're not going to figure things sitting by yourself in your corner in your office. And the community can do two things. You can create a community to either help with your work, or to help when you need to validate your product. So if you are selling a product, let's say you're selling t-shirts, create a community on Facebook that talks about t-shirts, and keep feeding them information. Then at some point, convert that community to paying clients, because they trust you, they validated the information that you're putting online, they validated you as a real person. So create communities around your subject matter expertise, around what you're selling. Create them. Facebook groups works really well. With Facebook groups, you basically, excuse my typo, you go to Facebook and you basically invite people to your Facebook group, and you tell them, you must be very honest upfront. Say, I'm starting a business in this, or I'm a digital marketing expert, or I'm an advertising agency. I'm creating a group that deals with people that actually need advertising solutions, and I will, on a weekly basis, share this information with you. So once they're in the group, you basically can at a later stage convert them into clients. But be active, curate information for people, put yourself as the subject matter expert. But once you've got the community, you're able to also test what works and what doesn't work in your community. And as I said, because everybody's online, and if you're creating a group that adds value to somebody's life, the feedback loop is really, really quickly. They'll be able to come back to you and sort of tell you what needs to work and what doesn't work. So then lastly, I say, get educated. Decide where you're going to get your education, on what topic when it comes to digital strategy. There's an information overload on opportunities that are available. There's theoretical concepts of what people know and what they don't know. When it comes to technical information, if you want to design or whatever, use Skillshare, use MOOCs, which is mass online open course softwares. You've got MOOCs from Harvard. A lot of people are actually using MOOCs to educate themselves and collect certificates, so that when the market comes back to normal, you're also marketable. So if you can get your education from something that also gives a certificate, because that also creates some sort of validity in the market, do that. Then once you've done your strategy, do not try to invent anything new. As I said, there's an information overload. Go steal. There's nothing new that's being created, but steal ethically. My favorite thing from one of the books from Austin Kleon is that go steal. As a creative, as a market, as a business person, it's not time to invent. Don't try to do anything new. Look around you, look at what works, look at what doesn't work. But there's also good theft versus bad theft. Funny enough, when I was looking at a good icon to put on invention, I actually thought this madman was a nice inventor. But then again, he's got reputation to have stolen from other people in terms of his invention. So you basically, being a genius does not necessarily mean that you'll invent something from something. I mean, he basically took a lot of Nikola Tesla's concepts and improved on them, or tested them and validated them. And Einstein himself does say that a lot of things he didn't invent. He basically learned from Nikola Tesla and got them to be better. Now he had the reputation of being a genius, but he didn't invent. He basically just, he stole ideas. He honored the person that he basically got the information from. Once you see an idea that you think you want to still study it, honor the person that basically came up with the original idea or what seems like an original idea. See how you can actually make it better. Don't take from one person, take from different people. So if somebody has invented a digital solution, or if you look at Zoom, don't just look at Zoom as a benchmark of what you can do. Look at other products in the market that do similar things so that you actually, what you reinvent becomes new and it becomes nuanced to your market, to your skills and your expertise. Give credit if you've actually learned a product from somebody. If you come into a group and you learn something from Andrew or from Godfrey, give credit that this is where you learned it from. You know, honor them, because once you give credit, those people will be willing to mentor you. They'll be willing to partner with you. They'll be willing to give you a shout out in the market. And don't copy and paste, transform what you've stolen. You know, make it a little bit better, improve on it, add something, add yourself in it. You know, locate yourself in the resource that you've stolen. Give it a bit of your own flavor. Give it a bit of your own gassy flavor. Instead of, you know, because you could take something from Andrew who lives in a different township or location, like a Lagaban. It's all beautiful, it's windy, but you might live in a sunny place and your clients might require a different solution. So basically remix, don't rip off. You know, there's honor in that. So in that stealing and not inventing, you basically have to, by the time that you're done with some level of good theft, you end up with a completely new product, but that you didn't have to invent or spend days reinventing. And whatever, if you're stealing from greatness, it's already been validated. The concept has already been validated. So people that are stealing from Zoom now, Zoom has already now validated itself, or the concept of online conferencing. Now people are just looking for better and better, and they're looking for, how do I do it different? Yeah.
Tebogo, so, I'm just going to give you a heads up. We've only got a few minutes left.
Okay, no, I'm actually done. This is some of the things that I recommend you basically look at. If you're in online marketing, I hope that you guys, the guys that said that they do digital marketing, I hope that you know Gary Vee. He's got daily advice and daily online. He's a genius. He's a celebrity in online marketing. Listen to him. China has, Alibaba has released a document on digital actions for entrepreneurs. They've got about 100 case studies of people that have actually pivoted their companies, so you can read that. And in terms of showing your work, those are some of the books. Still Like an Artist, Show Your Work, is that whatever you're doing, don't wait to perfect it. Go out in the market and do it and keep doing it better. So if you've got a product, go sell it to somebody or go help somebody with the little that you have now and get started. So in closing, I'd say help people go live, learn from your global case studies and from mentors. See what is it that you consume, because as I said, you are data, you represent a segment of the market. Understand yourself a little bit better to basically, and see how you yourself interact with your phone and other digital products. Do a proof of concept through the community that you're going to create on your digital platform. And also, if you're doing one service, think about post-COVID to diversify what you're doing. So if you learn how to do a course, think of, if you've identified one niche and you've done it well and you've created that formula, think about the next niche. So if you've worked with a soccer player or you've worked with a supermarket, use the same formula to say, okay, now I'm going to look for somebody in a different niche. So that if anything changes in the future, you basically can move between markets with what you've learned. And also think beyond COVID. This is going to be over, or we are going to learn to live with COVID. Everything now is online to online. You are going to have an oversupply of online to online in the future. And at some point, you're going to need somebody to go online to offline. An example of this happened, digital technology and e-commerce was booming in China, but there was nobody to deliver it. And then the bicycle market took off because they needed people to deliver on site through bicycles, but nobody was ready for it. And the first person to get in made money. So start also thinking about, how do I position myself? If everybody's delivering online, at some point there's going to be offline delivery, and how is it going to be done? So I'll end there.